Hey there, I'm Allysia. Welcome back to my vlog channel where I don't actually vlog, I just talk in front of the camera. It's a totally different thing. I should probably change the name of this channel, but it is what it is. So I wanted to sit down and talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is writing and creating art that's absolutely terrible. It's something we all do. All of us who create in some way or another have had this experience. And the reason I've been thinking about this lately is because I've been writing more music than usual. You know how it is. Well, maybe you do. I assume most people do. You just kind of, the creative spirit comes and goes in waves. So every now and then, I'll just get in these pockets where I do a whole lot of concentrated writing in a short period of time. And then I'll have periods where I do very little writing. So I'm fine with it. That's just the ebb and flow of the process as far as I'm concerned. But one thing that I think about a lot, and I thought that it might be kind of just useful maybe to talk about, is the fact that ideas are seldom very good. Even if you're a really talented musician or a really talented artist, there's going to be a lot of ideas you have that are just, for whatever reason, they don't land right. Maybe, so I'll speak to my experience as being a lyricist, but every now and then, not every now and then, almost all the time when I sit down to write something, it comes out contrived. So if I'm trying to, a lot of the times if I sit down to write something and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to make this about something, it's, or like I approach it from a sort of a storytelling angle, it's horrible. It comes out contrived. Like, I've never been able to write successfully about any type of current event or even really like outward story. Some people are genius storytellers. I am not a genius storyteller. I will never be a genius storyteller. At least if I tell myself that, I guess it's true. But it's true for now. So a lot of the time if I put a lot of thought into like, I'm going to write a song about blank. Even if it's not a story, even if it's about, I don't know, I'm going to write a song about that time that I went to the cabin and there was a zombie that never... Why am I saying that? That's a horror movie. That's not a song. But anyway, let's pretend that that's what I want to sit down and write about. It would end up just being really cheesy because I just find that a deliberate attempt often comes out quite clumsy. The best lyrics that, in my opinion, that I write are ones where I don't really know where I'm going, but I start on a journey anyway. I don't have this predetermined destination. It's not like buying a plane ticket to France, or Paris more specifically, I suppose. Buying a plane ticket to France would be kind of a vague thing. Okay, but it'd be like, I don't know where I'm going. It's like showing up at the airport and saying like, put me on whatever flight that has a spot available. And that's the way that I tend to approach writing and creativity. At least that's the way I approach it, where it seems to flow better. Because then I'm not trying to put myself into the words. I think a big problem with art is that your ego kind of gets in the way of the process. So if I'm sitting down to write a story about something, it's like I'm drawing from my experiences and my own thoughts and my own ideas, and I kind of have these like preset, I don't know, things that I've learned that I think, oh, this is a smart thing that I thought about once, so I'll put this in a lyric. But again, that all kind of ends up coming out quite contrived. So the best music that I write is when, in my opinion, is when I don't have that ego. So I don't have an idea where I'm going, which means I also don't have any expectations about where I'm going. And that allows what comes out to be a lot less like clumsy. It's a lot more natural. It seems a lot more authentic. And I'm not talking about, okay, so here's the fine line. So there's the one side of the spectrum where you have a concept and you crystallize it into art and it's beautiful and wonderful. And then the other side of things is the artist who just kind of like splashes things on a page and calls it art. It's just like, I'm in the spirit of the moment, so here's a splash of red paint or whatever. I probably shouldn't talk about visual art again because it's not my field. But anyway, hopefully you get the idea. There's kind of like these two poles of the creation process, and both poles have some things to say about the other. So the red paint splashing guy might be saying like the planner isn't feeling, they're not in a state of flow, they're just creating art from their head, not from their heart. And then the person who plans might say to the red paint splasher guy that he doesn't have any technique. He's not, his work is sloppy. There's no purpose to it. It's just random. So, and I think both points have I think both points, I think both sides have good points. I tend to fall more into the sloppy paint throwing guy, but I think there's an important distinction to make here. If you are experienced in something, if you've been spending many, many years doing something, it's a lot easier to splash paint in a way that looks awesome. If you've never done art before and then you splash paint, that's gonna be just as contrived as someone who's, you know, overly fixated in their head, putting their own like ego ideas onto a piece of paper. Does that make sense? So it almost, in order to get good sounding or looking randomness, you have to have a whole bunch of experience in whatever field you're in. So that's kind of how I feel. I've had a lot of years of writing poetry and lyrics and stuff, so I kind of feel like if I go in the zone of splash what's in my heart on the page, the best lyrics that I write sort of come out as a surprise to me, where I read them afterwards and I learn something. It's not like I'm trying to teach something, like I've already learned something and I'm trying to teach it. It's like a process of discovery in which I discover, this is a very redundant sentence, but in which, yeah, I learned something about myself that I didn't know. And another thing is that sometimes I write something that I don't really understand, which sounds terrible, and maybe it is terrible. Like, what's the point of art that you don't understand? But then later, with the passage of time, all of a sudden I get it, and the things that I couldn't really figure out why I wrote them make a lot of sense in retrospect. So I think that's a really cool thing about art too, because sometimes if you're in the spontaneity of the moment of the experience, it's really hard to step back and analyze it. But then when some months pass, you can look at it and say, oh, okay, so this was about this thing in my life. So the point of this video is that there are, I'm calling this video 100 bad ideas. That's just being a little dramatic. Actually, it's not that dramatic because I probably had like thousands of bad ideas in my lifetime. But the general ratio that I tend to notice in my own art is that for every 10 ideas I have, probably one are okay. And for every 100 ideas, maybe like 10-ish are okay if I'm lucky. But this is a good way to think about it, because what tends to happen is you write something and then you get really clingy about it, even if it's not good. You just fall in love with the thing in which you've written. I think James Altucher talks about this, like doing your own drugs, or the dealer doing their own cocaine or something like that. But it's kind of the same idea. You get very enamored by your idea. You think it's great because you created it and you can see what you're getting at. But because of that, you're not able to perceive reality accurately. So a lot of people in their approach to art will have 10 ideas and consider them 10 good ideas. And I think that's a mistake. I think you need to take your ego out of the equation a little bit and look at what you've done and try to look at things through as realistic of a lens as you can. Because it's really, that's what James Altucher says, it's don't smoke your own crack. That's very, very nice. He's a very well-spoken person. I encourage everyone to listen to his podcast. He interviews really fascinating people. But that's pretty much the idea. It's really easy to fall in love with your own work. And it's not that that's a bad thing. I think it's nice. It gives us like a little boost as artists when we create something that we're proud of. But there's also, it depends on your ultimate intention. So as a musician, if my intention is to create a music album of say 10 songs, then I want those 10 songs to be songs that more than I just like. I want them to be songs that other people like too. It has to be a little bit of both. So maybe as a band, we threw away like a good 50, probably more ideas. And then even me personally, maybe I wrote another 50 ideas that got scrapped for an album of just 10 songs. And I think that's good. I think you need to, as an artist, have the wherewithal to be able to ruthlessly cull that which is bad. I don't know. But at the same time, sometimes there's a lot of attachment to these things in a way where you feel really bad about yourself. Like if you write something bad, something that just isn't very good. It isn't effective. It's contrived. It's cheesy. It doesn't reach it doesn't say what you're trying to say, whatever it is. There's a tendency to just take it personally and say, oh, I wrote something that's cheesy, therefore I'm a terrible artist. And then you shed some tears in the corner and feel bad about your ability to be a good artist. That's not productive, and that's not what I'm saying. You need to be able to objectively pinpoint ideas that are bad while not feeling bad about that. Just accepting it as part of the process. It happens to everyone. Like, everyone writes bad ideas, and just be Buddhist or whatever. Just be able to let that go, and I think you'll be a much happier artist. Oh, that's the instant thought. We're cooking chickpeas, making chana masala tonight. I haven't really talked a lot about art or the creative process on this channel before, so I thought that might be an interesting thing to talk about. Hopefully you've gotten some value out of this. It is something that's been strongly on my mind this week in particular, because I've been in the spirit of writing lyrics, so I thought I'd sit down and talk about that. And please don't have the takeaway being that I think I'm like this wise person who writes great lyrics, because I don't think that's true. I think that I just do what I can with what I've got, and I always try to get better. But much of the creative process is just super mysterious. So, all right, thank you for watching today's video. I will talk to you guys later.